discussion on emotional intelligence, part of our series on a wholehearted internship. In this video, we will learn about emotional intelligence and touch on a few important concepts that will best help you as you enter internship. Emotional intelligence is defined as the capacity to be aware of and in control of one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships empathetically. Through your professional practice courses, you've learned strategies for demonstrating empathy and establishing rapport with your clients and colleagues. However, understanding and expressing our emotions isn't a topic that is discussed explicitly in this program and is key for personal development. In order to improve our relationships with others, we must first focus on ourselves and reflect inwardly. To do this, we must learn how to understand our emotions and manage them. By understanding our own emotional intelligence and taking steps to develop it, we can enhance our internship experience and better navigate challenging social situations. This will also result in better patient interactions and positive relationships with preceptors and other healthcare practitioners. In this video, we are going to discuss 4 important concepts of emotional intelligence that are pivotal to a wholehearted internship. These concepts include reaction time, cognitive hijacking, shifting your perspective, and building awareness of others. Let's get started.
Self-awareness is the first step in developing emotional intelligence. So what's next? Once we become aware of our emotional response, we can then work on managing it. But first, let's dig a bit deeper and understand the processes leading up to our emotional response. How we think as humans can be categorized in 2 ways. The first being very highly emotional and fast, and the second being slow, deliberate, intuitive, and logical. Performing day-to-day activities often requires very fast thinking. However, our biases and assumptions can slowly seep in if our thinking is not slow and deliberate. For example, you are frustrated when you see a family member feed your patient high-risk foods. You immediately intervene and ask them to stop while explaining all the risks. The family member is angry, confused, and reacts defensively. So what does slow and deliberate thinking look like in this situation? How could emotional intelligence be applied here? In this scenario, slowing down your thinking and not assuming that the family member is intentionally feeding your patient high-risk foods could have improved the outcome. With emotional intelligence, you accept that you feel frustrated and also concerned for the patient's safety. Self-awareness of your emotions prior to reacting may allow you to control your response. Being able to intercept your thoughts and switch your thinking from fast to slow requires conscious practice. You cannot change how you felt in this scenario or how you responded, but moving forward, you can learn from this experience. Reshaping your response in the future can allow you to have more collaborative relationships between yourself and the patient.
As was mentioned, self-awareness is the first step in developing our emotional intelligence. It enables us to become aware of our thoughts and emotions so that we can better regulate our response to situations. When we're not aware of our thoughts and emotions, there is the potential for something called cognitive hijacking to occur, which is essentially an irrational or emotional behavior in response to a trigger. This may manifest as someone behaving defiantly or retreating inward, but whatever the case, the result is that the reaction does not lead to the best possible outcome for that situation. If one encounters these triggers and continues to react according to their emotional response to it, a pattern of behavior can develop in which one is continuously not seeing a situation to its best outcome, and thus not fulfilling their potential in that role. During internship, we will likely experience situations that challenge us, and there may be an urge to respond in an emotional manner. It's important that we're able to identify these situations, reflect on how we felt during them, so as to inform how we might respond during future challenges, and prevent developing a pattern of behavior that limits our potential achievements. Here is a scenario. Imagine you're working with another intern on a complex clinical case. The patient has several comorbidities, and your preceptor has enlisted you to come up with a nutrition care plan. You've spent the last several hours poring over the latest practice guidelines and have compared results of several equations to determine the patient's nutritional needs. Throughout the process, the intern you were collaborating with didn't pull their weight and kept checking their phone instead of doing calculations. When you go to present the plan you've come up with, the other intern jumps in and explains the care plan to the preceptor as if they had done most of the work and were responsible for the findings. You recognize that this triggers an emotional response in you, disbelief, anger, and hurt. Your instinct is to retreat inward and possibly ignore the other intern for a while. Upon recognizing this trigger, however, how might you approach this difficult scenario in a way that would lead to a better outcome than ignoring one another? Can you think of some ways of dealing with this situation that might have a more constructive outcome? If you were to become aware of your emotional reaction to this situation, in order to intercept the process of cognitive hijacking, first of all, acknowledge the thoughts and emotions that have arisen. Next, ask yourself if responding accordingly would lead to the best outcome you could see for that issue. If not, consider addressing the situation from another approach, one in which you could resolve the conflict in a way that would lead to a more fulfilling outcome. What this outcome looks like may vary from person to person, but the end result should be something that comes from a place of acknowledging how something made you feel, then acting in a way that could help you move the situation forward and steer it in a more constructive direction.
Your perspectives are a result of your cultural upbringing and your past experiences and interactions, and can therefore be quite difficult to shift. When it comes to managing your interactions within a relationship, it's not only the circumstance itself that has the power to control the outcome, it's how we choose to respond, act, and interpret the circumstance too. Learning to shift your perspective allows you to preempt how someone else views the situation, and ultimately helps you make a well-rounded and thoughtful decision. Here are 3 techniques to help you. The first technique is to be objective. Try taking a step out of your role in the situation and attempt to describe the event as if you are a reporter or an objective bystander. It can be easy to view other perspectives as a nuisance after you've already established your own, but looking at a situation from a new perspective doesn't necessarily mean you need to change your opinion altogether. It simply adds new context and new ways of approaching a problem. Here are ways to do that.
Actively meet new people. Introduce yourself as a new intern and accept invitations to spend time with your preceptors and other colleagues for lunch or other activities. Ask sincere questions about why people do things a certain way and how you can improve what you're doing. The third and final technique is to show humility. You may want to appear confident and knowledgeable, but you may find it quite advantageous to show how much you still have to learn. You're at the beginning stages of becoming a dietitian, and so simply showing your keenness to learn new ways of doing things will be a great asset. Working in an interdisciplinary team is a fantastic example of how various perspectives can lead to effective patient-centered care. Here is a recurring scenario from our informational interviews with both dietitians and interns. You're an inpatient dietitian or intern and feel that the physician or other healthcare professional is brushing your role as an RD off and is not fully considering or listening to what you have to say. You feel frustrated, unheard, and resentful, and want to vent to another intern. How can you shift your perspective to approach this problem in a different way? Here are some considerations to keep in mind. Remember that other healthcare professionals do not receive as much nutrition training as an RD, and may therefore be simply unaware of its impact on healthcare outcomes. Recognize that they are extremely busy with different responsibilities and priorities, and understand that they may simply have little experience working with a dietitian in general. Here are some strategies that you can employ. Be objective. Avoid perceiving this response as a personal attack on you. This will help alleviate the initial emotional response you may have. Attempt to shift the situation into an opportunity to advocate for your profession and role. In other words, shift your perspective from a negative irritation to a positive opportunity to educate. It's okay to discuss your feelings with your preceptor or fellow intern to gain new insight, but try to avoid naming names or gossiping.
So social awareness is the ability to apply empathy to group settings. This will help you in being in tune with group dynamics. Empathy is the awareness and recognition of other people's needs, feelings, and concerns. You want to read each person as well as the group as a collective. There are many cues that people can give off to you to help you read them. For example, facial expressions such as rapid blinking can indicate stress. Any feeling words that come up in conversations such as anxious and stressed or happy and excited can let you know how people are feeling as well. Tone of voice, whether it's high or low, can reflect people's moods, as well as how people present their body language as being open or closed. So gathering all this information will allow you to adjust your approach to each situation depending on what you think is appropriate. Every group, no matter the size, develops their own culture and social norms. This could show up as written rules, but more often than not, it shows up as unwritten rules that are all accepted by the group. It is beneficial to be aware of the social norms and behaviors around them. keeping in mind if they're in alignment with each other or not. This is done by observing behaviors and actions, what is said and not said, and as well as how the collective group responds to its members. Navigating this may involve having to read in between the lines to determine how a group operates. With all this people reading and interpretation, it's important to remember and be aware of your inner self. If something is not lining up and makes you uncomfortable, make sure you listen to your gut and speak up if necessary. So during internship, it's important to be engaged with your healthcare team. Try to be observant and make mental notes of the way your preceptor interacts with other professionals. Recognizing the norms between the different professionals and how it can change. There may be a contrast between how your preceptor addresses other dietitians and other healthcare professionals, such as nurses or doctors. There could be unwritten rules that are specific to certain individuals, such as the most senior doctor only wants to be addressed by his last name. It is very likely that this is specific to each individual, which highlights the importance of reading each person as well as the group as a collective.
Thank you for joining us for this session of the Wholehearted Internship series. We hope you learned something new about emotional intelligence. Remember that emotional intelligence can be developed over time, meaning that we are capable of increasing our emotional resiliency. Practice slowing down your emotional reaction time. Identify emotional triggers, shift your perspective, and build your awareness of others. Using all of these skills will help you get the most out of your internship and manage relationships in a positive way. We hope you enjoyed this session and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye-bye!